They said one bad day would define him, that a single 3-for-8 passing line in his first camp practice would become the proof he wasn't ready for the NFL. One mediocre stat sheet was enough for critics to turn into vultures, circling for the hot take of the day. Twitter declared him QB4, memes labeled him a bust, and armchair analysts wrote off his rookie season before his Browns jersey had even absorbed the first layer of Cleveland sweat. The thing is, they never bothered to explain what those 8 attempts really were. They weren't first-team reps. They weren't even second-team. They were thrown to fourth-string wideouts, guys still trying to remember the playbook and barely learning Shadore's cadence. The offensive line? A patchwork of camp bodies who'd never taken a snap together. The context wasn't just important, it was everything. But the media skipped that chapter. They didn't mention the wrong routes, the busted reads, the defenders already sitting on certain plays because they'd seen the scout team run them 3 times. They didn't say that at least 5 of those incompletions hit receivers in the hands. They didn't mention the drops, the miscommunications, the deep shot on a broken coverage that was more about timing than completion percentage. Instead, they printed the easiest storyline. Shadore struggles in first NFL practice. That was the narrative. Day 1 was written in ink. Fast forward 24 hours. The same sun over Berea, Ohio. The same pads, same field, same rookie quarterback, but a completely different outcome. Day 2, and Shadore Sanders walks out looking like he'd read every headline and decided to put them all in a shredder. He went 4 for 4 in team drills. Not just any completions. On target, in stride, perfectly timed passes that threaded through windows the size of a shoebox. He was hitting out routes against tight coverage, layering the ball over the linebackers but under the safeties, and zipping slants in stride so the receivers never broke motion. He threw a deep crosser that split 2 defenders, a quick game strike on the move that left the DB flat-footed, and an intermediate dart that was in the air before the receiver even turned his head. This wasn't luck. This wasn't checkdowns and screen passes to inflate numbers. These were pro-level throws made with poise and conviction. He stood tall in the pocket, navigated pressure without panic, kept his feet balanced, and delivered with clean mechanics. The release was quick, the ball placement surgical. There was no rookie hesitation, no staring down receivers, no wasted movement. And yet, radio silence. The same media that jumped on the 3-for-8 storyline suddenly had nothing to say about perfection on day 2. No breaking news banners, no breathless tweets, just the sound of shifting goalposts. That's the thing about narrative control. When it fits the agenda, it's a headline. When it doesn't, it's ignored. That's why this story has to be told the right way. Because Shadore Sanders didn't just bounce back, he exposed the double standard. Look around the league. When Kenny Pickett or Joe Flacco have a rough camp session, it's dismissed as shaking off rust or working on timing. When Shadore misses a few throws with 4th stringers, it's supposedly proof he can't play at the next level. The rules change depending on the name. And make no mistake, Shadore's name carries weight. Not just because of his father, but because he's a young, confident black quarterback walking into a league that still clings to old, unspoken expectations. He isn't here to be quiet, to blend in, or to politely wait his turn. He's here to take the job. The veterans know it, the coaches see it, the locker room feels it. On day 2, he wasn't just making throws, he was making statements. He was the first one on the field, the first one in the film room. Between reps, he was coaching up receivers on their routes, correcting splits, encouraging guys after drops, giving constructive notes without condescension. He engaged with the defense, talking through coverage looks, making mental notes on tendencies. This is what leaders do. Leadership isn't a title. It's behavior repeated until it's undeniable. And while the depth chart may officially list him as QB4 behind Pickett, Flacco, and Gabriel, anyone watching knows that's a temporary label. Depth charts in August are nothing more than paper. Performance is what matters, and performance has been tilting in Shadore's direction since that perfect session. The whispers around camp have already started, players talking about how sharp he looked, how he's ahead of where they expected him to be, how he commands the huddle even with guys fighting for roster spots. Social media is already buzzing with clips of his day 2 throws, the ones local reporters recorded, and fans are now slow-mo breaking down frame by frame. And while the coaches might not admit it in a press conference, they see the same thing, a rookie who's accelerating. And here's where the real shift happens, because what Shadore did on day 2 wasn't just about numbers. It was about mechanics, vision, and the kind of intangibles that don't show up on a stat sheet but separate starters from backups. His footwork was compact and disciplined. No wasted steps, no extra shuffles that could throw off timing. On his dropbacks, he planted decisively and rotated through his hips with purpose, driving the ball without overstriding. His release point stayed consistent, whether he was firing a quick slant or pushing a deep out. That consistency is a coach's dream, because it means defensive tells are minimal. His eyes told their own story. He didn't lock onto his first read. He scanned the field, manipulated safeties with subtle head movement, and anticipated openings rather than waiting for them. These are not rookie traits. These are signs of a quarterback who understands the geometry of the game. But if you followed the coverage, you'd think the only story worth telling was the 3 for 8. That's the double standard. Veterans can stumble through a bad practice without scrutiny. Rookies like Shadore, every misfire is a crisis headline. And when he's perfect, silence. It's not about fairness, it's about control. And Shadore's presence disrupts that control. He's a high-profile rookie with a famous father, unafraid to speak with confidence, unafraid to carry himself like he belongs. That shakes up the comfortable hierarchy, the one that expects rookies to be quiet, take their lumps, and wait years for a chance. The irony is, his rise isn't just inevitable, it's accelerating. Coaches might publicly downplay it, saying he's still learning the system, but privately, they're cutting up his tape, showing it in meetings, and comparing it to what the veterans are doing with the same plays. Talent like this forces adjustments. That's why depth charts in August are a mirage. They're built to protect veterans, but they can't hide reality forever. The reality is this. If Shadore keeps stacking days like his day 2, the staff won't be able to justify keeping him buried. Not to the fans, not to the locker room, and not to themselves. Performance doesn't lie. And right now, his performance is saying one thing: move him up. The locker room momentum is already building. Teammates talk. They share who's impressing, who's dragging. Defensive backs have admitted he's making throws they didn't expect a rookie to even attempt. Receivers appreciate how he communicates between reps, adjusting routes, explaining timing, breaking down coverages. This isn't about being a rah-rah guy, it's about substance. When players feel you're making them better, they buy in. And make no mistake, the buy-in for Shadore is growing. Add in the fans, and the pressure multiplies. Clips of his precision throws are circulating online, and each one adds fuel to the fire. You start hearing it in the stands during open practice sessions, chants of Shadore when he takes the field. That's not something coaches can ignore for long. Public perception isn't the deciding factor in a quarterback battle, but it is leverage. And right now, that leverage is swinging toward the rookie. Imagine what happens when he gets those first-team reps. Imagine him throwing to David Njoku with Amari Cooper running routes behind the Browns' starting offensive line. The same timing, the same anticipation, only now the separation is cleaner, the pockets are deeper, the windows are wider. Plays that were 15-yard completions in practice become touchdowns in games. That's the upside the Browns have waiting. Every extra day they delay that experiment is another day lost to see what they truly have. And it's not like the Browns invested in him to let him rot at QB4. Draft capital, development resources, coaching time, all of it points to him being part of the plan sooner rather than later. The front office knows it. The players know it. Even the guys ahead of him on the depth chart know it. Quarterback rooms can feel these shifts. When the younger guy starts making throws the starter doesn't, when he's reading defenses faster, when he's winning the respect of the huddle, it creates an inevitability you can't coach away. That's where this is heading. First-team reps aren't a reward for Shadore, they're the next logical step. And when he gets them, the spotlight that burned him after day 1 will be the same spotlight that shows the rest of the league what Cleveland's been seeing up close. The day that happens, the QB4 label will look as outdated as the early camp depth chart. Because here's the truth. Shadore Sanders refuses to be defined by lazy narratives or single snapshots. Day 1's 3 for 8 was nothing more than a misrepresented moment. Day 2's 4 for 4 was the rebuttal, and the kind of rebuttal that sticks. It was proof that poise, precision, and preparation beat manufactured skepticism every time. Critics will still search for flaws. That's their job. The media we.